Your media, where you are.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Entered the Chat. Today I have a very special guest. She's actually a friend. Yeah, we're gonna introduce her and then we're gonna get right into it. So welcome, Yasmin Furmie. How you doing?
Oh, thank you. This is Yasmin Furmie, and I've entered the chat. And this is what you call nepotism, because she said I'm a friend, so we get priority.
100%. This is my show. I feel like I can do whatever I want. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure some of you already know Yasmin, but just for those who don't, please introduce yourself.
Okay, so you know my name is Yasmin. I am in the fashion space in Johannesburg, I guess South Africa. I'm a content creator, and just a lover of style, fashion, and I guess that's what I'm known for in these sorts of spaces.
Yes, in these streets. Okay, yes. So you're probably wondering what the heck you're doing on a show where I talk about like being a woman in her 30s. Like, obviously, that's not what space you're in anymore.
But I have been in that space, so
Yes,
we all have
exactly.
the experience.
Yeah, so I'm here for the wisdom, basically. Okay, cool. So I think what I wanted to talk about, especially with you, is that I'm in my 30s now. I feel like I'm quite comfortable with myself now and all of those sort of things. But there was a time where it was like, oh my word, I'm almost 30. I haven't achieved anything. Like, I feel like there's this immense pressure on you to achieve something by the age of 30, not just in terms of being career wise, but I think in terms of everything. You need to have a house, you need to have a car, you need to have babies, a husband, blah blah blah, all of these sorts of things. And I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any of it figured out. I didn't have a career figured out. I didn't have money. I didn't have a man. I didn't have anything figured out. You know what I mean? So I felt this immense pressure, and I see it now with other friends in their 20s, like telling me, oh my word, they're almost 30 and they don't have this and that. And I wanted to talk about the pressure to succeed, because I think you're actually the perfect person to speak to, maybe unconventionally, because you started your journey late, same as I did. But your journey, actually, I don't want to say you started your journey late. You had a specific journey. You pivoted, and then you pivoted again, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to get into that. Like, but you're in the fashion space now. You weren't obviously always in the fashion space. For those who don't know, Yasmin is a social worker by profession. That's what you did. Did you work in social work? Actually, I've never asked that question. Did you?
I actually did work
I
in
was like, is
social
it for
work.
Spaza?
No. It wasn't just the title. I did work in
Got
social
it.
work.
Okay.
I worked in a hospital in
wow.
Sydney, and then when I came back to Johannesburg, I worked for an organization called NICRO.
Micro.
So yeah,
Okay.
I was a social worker for a period of time in my life.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And wait, I don't know if many people know that about you, that you were actually in Australia for a bit.
Yes.
Like, can you tell us a little bit about that? I know we're jumping a bit, but yeah, just a little.
So my family
okay.
moved to Australia when I was 15.
Got it.
I think at that time it was something that a lot of families in communities of color were thinking of,
Correct.
moving for the future of their children, so to speak.
Yes.
And that's what my family did.
Got it.
So that's where we went to Sydney. I finished my high school there, university there, and
Got
did
it.
some work there. And then, for all sorts of reasons, did a little bit of a trip around the world and
Yes.
came back to Johannesburg. Quite
Lovely.
inadvertently. It wasn't a serious intention, but circumstances then
Yes.
sort of made me stay.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So obviously you got married at some point. Was that when you were still working? Was that after, like, did you leave your job and then you met the person? Like, how did that sort of all play out?
So I met my husband while I was working through
it.
my job. So
Okay.
as a social worker was
Okay.
the reason why I met him.
Oh, okay. It all makes sense to me now. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
100%.
He sent a client to me, and through twists and turns, we
Yes.
got together.
Okay.
But just to go back to what you were initially talking about in
Yes.
terms of pressure,
Yes.
to to be whatever in
Yes.
your 30s. I think that pressure comes throughout your life. When
Okay.
you're in your 20s, there are certain things that are that society defines for you, certain
Correct.
things that your parents define for you, whether it's what it is you're going to study at university, who's in your life at that time. I mean, you feel that pressure constantly in all sorts of different spheres.
Yes, 100%.
Sort of on a micro level, on a macro level.
Correct.
And I think we have this sort of magical 30s where
Yes.
everybody almost feels like your whole life is going to change miraculously.
Yes.
Because it's this age that there's a sense of, you're supposed to have a sense of maturity.
Yes.
By now you must settle down, and I say that with air quotes.
Yes.
Yeah, like you said, why aren't you married? Are you thinking of having children when you do get married? What's your career trajectory? All those sorts of things that, whether it's your immediate family, whether it's the society, you get magazines that,
Yes.
then when you still used to read a physical magazine.
Absolutely.
What the 30s hold for you, what the 40s hold for you.
Exactly,
And then I think
exactly.
people think that if they don't reach those goals, that they're failures.
Yes, 100%. That's how I felt.
Exactly. And I look at you now as a 60-year-old woman, and I look at you in your 30s, and I think, what a life you're living.
Really?
Your
That's
sense
hilarious.
of freedom is palpable. And I think when women look back,
Yes.
or just generally people
Yes.
look back, but I think the pressure is more on women
Yes,
to achieve certain
100%.
things.
Yes.
I look back and I think I am so damn envious,
Wow.
because I would have wanted to extend certain things
Correct.
in my decision making.
Yes.
Of course, in terms of wanting to have children, perhaps 30 was a good sort of
Age.
to start.
Yes.
Because that's when I had my first child.
Okay, great.
But there are some things in terms of career and all those sorts of things that perhaps could have been extended that I didn't do. But we
Yes.
can talk about that as well. But I
100%.
look at you and I admire your going against the grain, because I'm all
for that.
going
yes, that's
against the
basically
grain.
what you
Yeah.
are, yes.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting, Yaz, because I'm in my 30s now. Obviously, I know to a certain degree by looking at my peers that, yes, I do have a sense of freedom. I can get up and go if I want to go on holiday or whatever, whereas, my peers have kids now or whatever and husbands, so they aren't sort of free in that regard.
Yeah.
But I look at my life and I'm like, oh my word, I was such a pick me person. I was like, pick me, choose me, love me. Like, in my 20s, I was like, I think still a little, but in my 30s, my early 30s, I was like, oh my word, I didn't choose the right career. I didn't do this. Wasn't I different with this boyfriend? I could have still had him now. Like, all of these sorts of things. And yes, now in my 30s, I'm sort of like learning and loving my life and accepting my life, accepting, this is my career path now. Yes, it can always change. I believe that. Yes, this is my life. I don't have kids. I'm not probably going to ever have kids. I don't have a husband. I may never have a husband. I don't know.
And that's also okay.
And
I
that's
mean,
also
if that's
okay.
Where you are.
Correct.
If you're wanting a husband because everybody's saying, oh my God, why doesn't Bronwyn have
Yes.
a husband?
Oh, they do. They say that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
Yes.
they saying it.
Correct.
But
It's
if
not
you
me.
are making that a belief of yourself because someone else is saying it,
Yes.
then you have to question that. But if
Exactly.
you're saying, whatever comes along, when it
Exactly.
comes along, I'm cool with that,
Yes.
then that's where you are happiest.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that's what people have to understand.
And-
that we don't have to fit this mold
Yes.
in certain times in our lives.
Yes.
Because people expect me to be in a certain way at the age I'm at.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm just, it's like the middle finger to those who think that that's how I have to behave.
Wait, okay, so please let's backtrack a little bit. Talk about when you pivoted to fashion. I mean, you've always been a fashion girl in
Yeah.
your life, yes, but I mean actually turning it into a career. I mean, obviously you blew up with social media and we all sort of know who you are now, but it's like, how did it happen? Like, how did Raw Silk happen? Did something happen before Raw Silk? What happened that made you change the trajectory of your life at a later stage in your life where people expect everyone to sort of lay down, to start retiring, to, not be in the limelight or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, you actually boldly went into the world and you were like, actually, here I am. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Talk us through what happened.
Look, I think when I first had my children,
Yes.
say my first child,
Yes.
yes, it was something that I planned. I
Okay.
wanted to have a child. That was part of my, in my 20s, saying, okay, when I'm 30, I think I should have a child.
Okay.
I actually didn't want to have 2 children.
Oh, wow,
But I
okay.
am very glad that I did.
Yes, I am too. They didn't.
And initially, when I sort of had, it was that sort of thing, stay at home, look after your child, give up your social work. I don't know if you can call it a career as such, but it was what I identified my career with,
Yes,
as being a
of
social
course.
worker. And so when I gave that up, it was almost like a part of me shut down, and I was a little bit resentful that I say now that I had to do it, but I didn't have to do it.
Yes,
At
yes.
that time I felt like I had to.
Okay.
But when I look back at it, I think, yes, it was a good thing. I think my children benefited immensely by me being with them,
Okay. Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
But also still being me, taking time for myself, doing the things that I want to do.
Okay, great.
But I did have a sense of, who am I outside of this no more social work person?
Yes.
Now I tell people I'm a housewife.
Yes.
And it made me feel very much less than, because I came from that tradition of, you can do what you want. I'm a
Yes.
feminist.
Yes.
I'm not staying at home
Yes.
for anybody.
Correct.
So it was that sort of sensibility in my head. And when I actually did that, it made me feel a little bit unstable.
Okay.
So it took me a little while to own that and go, actually, I'm choosing this.
Yes.
I want to do it.
Yes.
And that's what I'm happy with doing.
Yes.
But I also, on another level, compared myself with peers
Absolutely.
who then went on to achieve lots of fabulous things in their careers, corporately, privately, business-wise, and so on. Then you look at yourself and think, I'm just a housewife.
Yes.
I'm just a
yes,
mother.
Yes.
But ultimately, those are housewife not in the sense that I was cleaning
Correct.
and doing all those sorts of things, but really being with my children.
Yes.
I think it's a bloody important job,
Yes.
and that I had the ability to do that without having to worry financially, that I could stay at home and look after them. It was wonderful.
Yes.
But there was that comparison. What if I had carried on with my career?
Yes.
Where would I
Have
be?
been. Yes.
But when I look at you and I think, when you question, look at me, why isn't somebody being there? Why didn't that person come into my life? Should I
Yes.
have been different with him? Should I have stayed in the career that I've chosen?
Yes.
Think about all those things that you experienced.
Yes.
Like, say, choosing what you did at university.
Yes.
Science.
Yes.
It literally shows, I know how clever you are.
Oh, thank you.
You are incredibly...
Most people don't know.
No. Then they don't know you well. The people who know you well know how very, very intelligent you are. Your intellect.
Yeah.
It shows in the degree you chose to do.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
anybody can do that.
Yes, I hear you. Yeah.
And in terms of the mistakes, and not mistakes, but the learning experiences
Yes.
in the relationships we have.
Yes.
Those that fail, those that succeed,
Yes.
it makes us who we are.
That's
So
true.
all those things have added to the Bronwyn that we know today.
Yes.
And all the successes, failures
Yes.
that you will continue to have in your life,
Yes.
not necessarily big failures, they can be small things in
Yes.
whatever sphere of
Sphere
life,
of my life, yeah.
they're going to make you who you are.
Yeah.
And so when I change that thinking
Mm-hmm.
of, I can't always be looking down on myself and comparing myself to other people. I have to
It's
find
their
what
journey.
is happy, what's going to make me happy. I
Correct.
always knew that fashion was something that I loved.
Yes.
And when the time came for
Yes.
my children no longer to be dependent on me,
Uh-huh.
it was that lots of things came into play
Okay.
at the right time.
Perfect.
I grabbed the opportunity,
Okay.
and that was it.
I love that. So it wasn't accidental. I feel like the world or the universe creates these opportunities for us, but it was just at the time that they didn't need you anymore
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
mom, as much hands on,
Yeah.
that opportunities came to you.
Exactly.
Is that what happened?
And probably there were opportunities before then, but I wasn't ready for them.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
I
and-
didn't see them. I didn't want to acknowledge them.
Yes.
Whatever. And I think we do have a very much of an active role
Yes.
in where we take ourselves.
Okay.
Because I think when the time is right, your eyes really open
Got
to
it.
what is available to you.
Got it.
So
So you-
it may have been there before, but there were other things that took my
Absolutely.
attention away. So
Yes.
it didn't make any sense before then.
Before then.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually thinking about a funny thing now. You're saying all of these things, and I want to find out if you're proud of yourself at every stage of your life. If you were proud of yourself, was there a time that you doubted? Because we had a school reunion for my high school, like, the 10-year reunion. I refused to go because I was like so disappointed in myself. I was like, I don't want to get there, and people who were getting 50s at school and I was like getting 70s and 80s or whatever are gonna turn around and tell me they CAs or whatever. Like, I didn't want that like disappointment. I didn't want to compare myself to my friends, and it's not that I wasn't happy for what they were doing and where they were in their lives. I just didn't want to feel like I am a failure and reject myself and have all of those thoughts. I'm thinking to myself, now that's so hilarious. Why didn't I go to my 10-year reunion? But like, I wasn't proud of myself. I wasn't proud of where I was at, and it's okay to have those moments and stuff. But were you ever like, oh my gosh, I regret this decision, or I'm really not proud of where I am right now? And yes, you love your kids, and yes, whatever, but it's like, was there ever that moment, like, really, like, I regret this?
Yeah. Look, I think there are obviously moments in your life. I mean, let me go back.
Okay.
Before, I used to say you have to live with no regrets.
Yes.
But that is at a point where I am now. But when you do something that perhaps doesn't work out,
yes,
in that moment, you're regretting it. Do you know what I mean? So say you're 25 and you make a bad decision about a person you're having a relationship with.
Yes.
Whatever they do, whatever you do.
Yes.
You think, oh my goodness, why the F
yes.
did I
you can swear,
get into that?
okay.
Can I swear? Okay. Why the fuck?
Yes.
Did
get
I
it
get
out
into
there.
this?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
you regret that decision in that moment.
Yes.
It takes you years later to look back and go, actually, that was just part of what I had to go through. Because
exactly.
you learn so much from self-reflection.
Yes.
Looking back and going, what could I have done differently? Was it anything to do with me? Actually, not. It had to do with the person I was in a relationship with. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So regrets, of course, at the time. But
Yes.
when I take an overall picture of my life,
Absolutely.
I can say I don't have regrets. There were some times when, of course, I wasn't proud of myself.
Of course,
whether it
we
was
all
in
have those
personal
moments.
relationships, the way I may have behaved in them,
Yes.
relationships with my parents. But I think in sort of big things, what I chose to do,
Yes.
say in my career, whatever I chose at university,
Yes.
getting married,
Yes.
having my children,
Yes.
doing what I'm doing now.
Yes.
I think, they're definitely proud of myself.
Amazing.
But I think similarly, years ago,
Yes.
I used to think, same thing when I said to you, I felt a little bit less than when it's housewife and somebody
Yes,
says,
yes,
oh,
yes,
I'm
yes.
an advocate.
And you're like,
Do you know what I
that's
mean? And
great.
Then
woman.
you go, I used to be a social worker.
Yes, you have
Because
to
you
feel
want
like you
to-
need to.
Yeah.
You know?
I was also at university.
Yes, 100%. I
Yeah.
still do that. Why do I do this?
I used to feel that. I don't
Yes.
feel that anymore. I don't make excuses for where I am in my life.
Yes.
And that comes with a maturity. It does. It comes with a sense of confidence about where you are in your life.
Yes.
And I can understand that because when you say to somebody, oh, I'm in fashion.
Yes.
And then they go,
Oh, wow.
and then you talk about politics, and then somebody
Yes.
says, oh, do you know where this country is? And you go, yes, I do, blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, you know that.
Oh, you
and I
have
go,
half a brain.
you see, there's a lot of things you don't know about me because
Correct.
you've made an idea
Yes.
in your head about what somebody in fashion is.
Absolutely. All of these assumptions.
So I can say to you, don't ever, it's the comparison that
Yes.
is the killer.
Yes.
Because we elevate certain positions like CAs, lawyers, doctors.
Yes.
And as they should be, because I mean,
They work hard, it's
they
great
work
what they
hard,
do,
it's
it's
what it
fabulous.
is.
Yes.
But I think comparing what we do, because if we do things with the passion we do it with,
Yes.
why should we feel any lesser than those who are doing other things that they feel passion for?
Absolutely. Because we're amazing at what we do
Exactly.
in our own right, in our own space.
So please have that reunion again.
Ah!
And go and show yourself because you have achieved immensely.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of them see
I
me
wish
on social
I've
media
never
now.
been to a school reunion.
Really?
Oh.
Well, clearly none of us have, me and you both. We haven't been, but maybe we must create our own
Our
little.
own reunion.
Yeah. Whoever wants to come, my number
Exactly.
is 089. Okay, yes. So I think, okay, I mean, what? Okay, so I want to talk to women in their 20s, their 30s, maybe their early 40s. I don't even know if I can speak to the women in their 40s because I feel like they already know so much more than I do. Because now I feel like, oh my word, when I hear like girls in their 20s, like messaging me and like, oh my word, this happened and what can I do about this? Or even my own friends who are like, oh my word, my life and da 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 da. I'm like, guys, everything is going to be all right. Like literally.
Yeah.
So if you could give advice to anyone in their 20s or their 30s about the pressure that they feel, whether it's to be a mother, whether it's to be, because you don't know, it could be someone fighting IVF or, that sort of thing, or the pressure to study whatever they think their parents want them to study, because that was my issue, and then not regretting it, but like feeling like, why did I do this? Or why didn't I, whatever, Like, what advice would you give people, or women specifically, women of color specifically, going through, all of those choices? Because it's complicated for us, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it's very...
it's not just a black and white sort of answer.
Absolutely.
Do this and don't do that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because we unfortunately don't make some choices for ourselves. The world makes it for us.
Yeah.
So, like, do you have any advice?
Look, I think that it's, advice can sometimes be,
Yes.
it's a very personal thing to
Yes,
me,
yes.
because it may have worked for me or may not have worked for me, but in hindsight, I can say, X, Y, Z.
Yes.
But if I had my 20s over working into my, if I look back, thinking
Yes.
going into my 30s, I would just say continue to live the life that you want to. I know the pressure from parents and from family can be very great.
Yes.
To be a certain way, to do certain things. But if you know inwardly that perhaps what you want to do goes against what, say, your family, I'm just going to talk about small now, not
Correct.
necessarily society.
Got it.
What your family wants you to do. You have to find the support of people who are like-minded.
Yes.
Who can talk you through and support you through the decisions you want to make.
Yes.
I mean, I was just talking to my son now about fear.
Yes.
And sometimes when we are in a situation that we don't even like, but we're comfortable in it,
Correct.
to get out of it is extremely fearful because you
Yes.
don't know what the other side holds.
Absolutely.
And I've always said that you literally have to take the leap and then go for it. Oftentimes it's going to work out. More often than not, it's going to work
Yes,
out because we
yes.
always have a very negative mindset about what's going to happen if we take that risk.
Absolutely.
But we have to take the risk
Yes.
because your life becomes so much better for it. Because otherwise we're stuck in doing things, feeling things, being people we don't want to be.
Yeah. 100%.
And that is never going to make for a happy individual. It's never going to make for a happy 30s. If in your 20s you were, feeling the pressure to be something that you want, that you're not, or to
yeah.
do something that you don't want to do. So
Absolutely.
you're going to take it on into your 30s. It's going to affect what you do in your 40s. So it's like a domino
ripple
effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you stop that outside pressure
Gotcha.
from actually directing you and driving you into a direction that you don't want to go.
Yeah. And
so
that's
that's
a
what
you thing.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And what's next for Yasmin? What can we, I mean, guys, she was a cover girl like 5
please.
minutes ago. Like, girl, like, I can't even pronounce this magazine, my liquor child girl.
Nunush online.
No.
It's wonderful. I'm a cover girl in my 60s.
Yeah.
Well, 60. I think that's wonderful.
It's flipping amazing. I love
What's
it.
next for me is that I hope to do some more work with wonderful brands. And I think that's what I'm sort of envisioning and manifesting and
Yes.
putting out there.
Yes.
And continuing to talk about the fact that we have to really not apologize for who we are and what we want to be. And not to try and fit in all the time. Because I know
Yes.
it's very difficult to not do that. But I think we have to.
I love
Regardless of the complications and the nuances that brown and black women have to go
Have
through
to face,
in society
yes. We
and
can
family.
still make it work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love that. I feel like this was such a great episode because I didn't have to say much. I could actually
Because
I
I
could just
talk
let
too
you I could
much.
just let you be, which is great. And I don't have to think and use my brain, babes, because it's a lot, But yes, thank you so much for being. I really appreciate it. The nepotism is appreciated.
I'm not a nepo baby, I'm a nepo adult.
Hashtag loving life.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I think this sort of podcast that you're doing is really wonderful to have, because so many people just want to know about the general things
Yes.
in our existence.
Yes.
So with that, I'm going to leave the chat.
Oh, look at her even having the outro on point. Thank you, yes. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll catch you again next week. Okay, bye.